This fluoro light isn't exactly a fluoro light. It's actually an LED strip. On the underside of the diffuser, I've put some baking paper. And with the baking paper, it diffuses the light enough that you can't actually tell the individual LEDs. You can't tell it's a light strip. It actually looks really good. I was very happy with the conversion. But unfortunately, I've recently started having issues with the lights. It's not the conversion, it's the strips that I chose to use. So a little bit of a background on this. These are LIFX branded LED strips. These are called the LIFX Z strip. So LIFX are a company that makes smart globes. These packs were there, or I don't know if they still sell these, to be honest. I've had them maybe 2 years. Maybe not that long. Year and a half, maybe. But these packs came with the LED strips. I've also purchased, I've got 18 of these globes within the house, which is just the smart globe, screws into a normal light socket. And then I've got 2 of these, which are, I forget what the kind of connector is. It's another type of globe. Either way, these have worked well. I've had very little issues with these. A little bit of dropping off the Wi-Fi, but nothing too much. These, I've got them throughout the whole house. My fault. It was a total waste of money. I got them when they were on sale. These were the first version, I think, that didn't have HomeKit support. I got them on sale because I didn't know at the time they were bringing out a new version that actually had HomeKit support. Unfortunately, when I bought these, I got 18. Out of the 18, one came with dead Wi-Fi. Never been able to get it to work, but LIFX's warranty was so hard to deal with, I gave up. And for the last year, I've put up with one of them constantly blinking, light, dark, because the LED's dying in it. The rest have worked okay. However, because of the fact that you can't comfortably, like, you need to use an app to control them. And let's be real, you don't want to walk into a room and pull out a phone. So in the whole house, these get used just as a normal light globe. I've not used the smart part of any of them, except for the one in my bedroom, because I can go to bed and I can tell Google to turn it off. And that happens to be the one that's failing. So, I haven't had a great run with these. The LIFX Z strips, however, I have been relatively happy, at least with the light output, because by having them up here, they light the room comfortably. I can control with the app if I want to, but most of the time it's just, I might tell Google to turn them off or whatever. Now, when I bought them, they were $130, and they came with only 2 meters. Now, compared to other light strips, that's extremely expensive, but it was apparently, high quality stuff. It wasn't your cheap Chinesey garbage. Although, to be honest, I would very much doubt that these are any better quality than the cheap Chinesey garbage. Now, just for a little comparison, this is your cheapest type of LED strip that comes in multicolor. So it does RGB. And the way this works is we've got our LEDs right along the strip. We've got 4 pins. We'll have a ground or a negative for red, a negative for green, negative for blue, and then a positive rail. If you give it positive and then say negative red, they'll all light up red. You can't control what each segment does in its color. You can only control the entire strip. Then your next better option that costs more, and by more I mean this strip of 5 meters probably cost about $50. This kind doesn't have the 4 wires, it only uses 3, as you can see by those 3 pads. And the way this works is we've got 3 RGB LEDs, and they're connected to this control chip. So you have a controller box that will send, so you'll get power sent down, so the whole strip gets power, and then you'll have a control signal that talks to the chip, tells the chip what color you want, and then the chip will send power to that segment on the LED. So I could tell this chip to be green and this chip to be blue. The 3 LEDs that talk to this chip directly would be green. The 3 that talk to this chip here next to it would be blue. That way I can have the segment chase. I can do multicolor down the strip. Now the LIFX does the same kind of thing, but it takes it further again. So with the LIFX strip, there's a control box that talks to your app, talks to your phone. So what happens here is I've got a 24-volt power adapter that comes in the kit, and that powers the control box. The control box has a Wi-Fi chip in it, and that talks over your network to the app in your phone. So I can say, make the lights green, and it will then send a signal down the cable to, in the LIFX strip, their equivalent of this chip, and then that chip will tell its small segment of LEDs what color to be. So on the LIFX strip, you can do chasing as well. And the way that looks is down here, I've got the same strip, and as you can see, it's multicolor. I've told it to be multicolor, and it's done that. Now, you might be able to tell from here, and I'm going to be honest, I'm not 100% sure when I chose multicolor if that is supposed to be purple or if that segment's damaged. But you may be able to count that there's 6 segments there that are a different color. So, this section here, or this bit here, this is a section out of the LIFX strip. What we actually have is, rather than a chip by itself next to a group of 3 LEDs, we've got a chip built on top of one LED, and then we've got 5 other LEDs it controls. So this 12 segment here, or this 12 LED strip here, has 2 segments. So theoretically, this could be green, this could be pink. Now, unlike the cheap Chinese strip, which only does RGB, the LIFX do RGBW. So we also have a white LED next to it. So we have a segment here that could be red, green, blue, white, or any of the combination of the colors. And then we've got another segment there that could be different. The big difference, though, between these two, in my opinion, is the way they've chosen to implement the chip. So the control chip in this is sitting next to an LED. The control chip in this is that little tiny dot on top of the LED. So let's have a look at this strip, or one of these strips, under the microscope. So under the microscope here, we've got one of the strips. So this is the LED, and this little tiny dot is the control chip. The way this works is this control chip gets a data signal from that white box. The signal might say, make the LEDs green. And then this will send power to the green segment on the chip, on the LED. This LED will light up green, and then from the contacts coming out of it, it will send power for the green LEDs that are hung off of it. Because the rest of the LEDs in this segment are just dumb. This does the controlling, and then it controls those, that batch of LEDs. Then the next 6 down, we have another one of these. This gets like a different ID number, so it will look for what it's supposed to be. It might be getting ID'd as, say, I don't know, chip 12. 12 become green. It says, all right, I need to become green. Lights up the segments it needs to do green. And the next 5 after this, so a total of 6, would be green. Now, I've had, unfortunately, I've purchased 4 of these sets at a considerable price. And out of the 4, only 1 remains. Or at least only 1 that functions properly. This one here functions properly. This one over here is what happens when they die. So as you can see, it's cycling. That's not deliberate. I'm not doing that. What we've got is we've got our control cable coming out of that white box. It's sending power and the control signal for the chips. All of this part of the LED strip is working fine. I've got my jumper wires here to go down to the next strip, and that was working fine. But the chip in the LED here has now died. With that chip dying, that means that its segment of 6 LEDs, so itself plus the other 5, they aren't getting any power on any of their segments, so they're not lighting up at all. But then, everything down from that, the power still gets to them, their chips still get power, but the communications don't get to them. So what that means is, from this chip down, we aren't getting communication from that white box. Because these chips are powered, but they're not talking to the box, they don't know what to do. So they're actually cycling through all the colors as a way of saying, I'm not getting data, you need to program me. So with this one LED failing, this whole section is unusable. These don't light and these cycle. This is not the first time this has happened. Out of my 4 boxes of these strips, this controller has died. So that died, I bought another set. I then had one of the exact same problem with the LED die. I had that with one of these strips. I then had that happen under here. So you might notice that there's an LED there that doesn't have any of that plastic stuff around it, any of the like silicon stuff. It's because I had to cut it away. That one LED died and I had to replace it. So that again was the control LED with that chip. So because I already had at that point a dead strip, I had to transplant a functional LED with a control chip onto that strip, and that did fix it. I shouldn't have to do that, but that's what I had to do to get it to work again. Now, this one has done the same thing. So, to fix it, I have 2 options. Cut the strip here and lose a section of light. Reset the box, the little white box, and tell it, hey, find all your LED strips again. Or desolder this chip, or the whole LED rather. I can't get to that little chip, that's way too small. Desolder the LED and put one on from the other dead strip. I don't want to have to do that. These shouldn't be dying, but they are. So ultimately, I'm a little torn. I like the product, but the quality is just not there. My assumption is that putting the chip on here is causing probably quite a high rate of failure. If I had to put the chip next to it, it wouldn't have been nearly as warm. It wouldn't be dying. I think they're dying because they're heating up, cooling down, heating up, cooling down. You see, this chip is not very big. It's sitting right on top of the LED, which is a heat source. These are very thin wires. I reckon when it heats up, cools down, heats up, cools down, because metal expands and contracts, I reckon it's slowly working its way through breaking the connection. And once that's gone, the whole strip's garbage, basically, unless you're like me and you're willing to fix it. Most people are not going to do that. So, I'd probably recommend staying away from the LIFX Z-strips. And when I consider how bad the support was when I tried to use it initially, the one globe that came with dead Wi-Fi, and considering how I know this is going to be a struggle. In fact, that's why I'm making this video, because it's just too many for me to just keep ignoring. I want LIFX to replace them. They probably won't, but I reckon they should. I'd probably say don't buy these. It's probably safest not to buy these. However, if they have a new version of this, maybe they fix that issue. I don't know. As I said, these are like 1.5 or 2 years old.